this December 7th through 9th. Check out the EdUp Experience podcast live and in person in Doha, Qatar for the World Innovation Summit on Education. We will be documenting the ideas and innovations from today's most influential global education leaders. Check them out at wise-qatar.org and follow the EdUp Experience podcast for more information. Yay! Guys, this is Joe just popping in to ask if you've signed up for your free marketing consultation with MDT Marketing yet. If you haven't, head to mdtmarketing.com/edup, submit your information, get your free consultation today. Don't do it alone. Find the right partner. Welcome back, everybody. This is the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio here with you again and again and again and again. It's never ending. It'll be forever, I promise. I don't know if you have been watching, but if you have, you may have seen the EdUp Experience is headed to Doha, Qatar. We will be a media partner for the World Innovation Summit on Education in Doha, December 7th through 9th. Oh, wow, what an honor. I don't know how the heck I'm going to get from, I said this on a previous episode, how I'm going to get from Southern California to Doha. It feels like that could be the furthest point away from where I am. It might be a complete mess with jet lag. The sound effects, I'm just going to download every crazy sound effect button I have so that I can use it as a supplement if I'm horrible on the microphone. But I have Elvin with me and it'll be the first time we meet in person. So it's a pretty exciting time for the EdUp Experience. We continue to grow. As this episode airs, we've passed 87,000 downloads, on our way to 100,000. So appreciative of our listeners and of our guests. And it's funny because we have both a listener and a guest with us today, and a guest host who has been a guest and a listener. I mean, I don't know how much better this episode could already be. I'm going to bring my guest host in now. You've heard him before on a previous episode when I embarrassed myself by calling what he does and what he rides, but that doesn't make sense, a boat. And he corrected me right out of the gate and said, it's a ship. And here he is today again, ladies and gentlemen, Scott Marshall, President and Chief Executive Officer at Semester at Sea.
That is a perfect intro, Joe. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here with you. And if you ever want to talk about Doha, I've been there a couple of times. It is a really long flight, but it's worth it.
I do want to talk to you about Doha, in fact. But I just do want to let you know that each time you talk or each time I segue to bring you in, that will be how you know.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't know if you can miss it.
I'm prepared.
Okay, good. Well, I thought it was perfect for you, by the way. I was like, what am I going to do to introduce Scott? Yes, a horn. How could I, that's a ship horn. I even looked up ship horn, not boat horn. How do you like that?
Our ship's captain is going to be so pleased. I'm going to have to send him this particular episode for sure.
I'm sure he's just going to change his life.
And then we're going to have to get our guest on our ship at some point.
I would love to do that. I'll tell you, I'm excited to have you. I've been waiting to co-host with you for two reasons. One, we had a great episode with you on. I can't even remember what number it was, but it was a fun conversation. And I thought, you know what? Let's get this guy on the mic. You're good on the microphone. You've got a great background in higher ed, and I think we could have a lot of fun with our guest today, who I would like to bring in now. I didn't know what type of sound effect would match him yet. We might find one by the end of the episode. So I'm going to go with a good old applause. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Mark Branche. He's Chancellor at the University of Tennessee Southern. Mark, how are you?
I'm great. I'm glad to be on EdUp Experience.
Well, we're glad to have you, my friend. And in fact, I think I might have had to reschedule you once or twice, and I felt so bad about it. So I'm glad that you're flexible and here with me today. And really excited to talk about the University of Tennessee Southern. And, it'll be good to kind of set us off, Mark. Besides the obvious that you're somewhere in Tennessee, where are you located in terms of the state? What do you guys do at Tennessee Southern, and how do you do it?
Well, we are just recently the University of Tennessee Southern, having been acquired by the University of Tennessee system on July 1st. So the last year or so has been quite a ride. We have been in southern Middle Tennessee, rural southern Middle Tennessee, for over 150 years. First as a Methodist college, first a female college for women, and then we grew over time to, of course, be coeducational, grew over time to be 4-year and graduate. But we had this opportunity to consider merging with or being acquired by the University of Tennessee system. And that's been quite a story.
Yeah, I mean, your previous name was Martin Methodist, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, Martin Methodist College. And, you know, what's the complete fascinating part of this conversation is this acquisition merger process that you've recently gone through. How does it come about? How does that decision-making process, that decision-making tree look as you went through it? And what were some of the key moments where you as a leader went, yeah, this makes a lot of sense for us?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it starts long before you even begin to consider such an opportunity. We needed to make sure that our trustees, and at the time we had 28 trustees, knew exactly where we were financially. And many small colleges, as you are aware, particularly those in rural places, are really struggling. And we were doing okay. We've been doing okay for 150 or more years. We knew, though, that we had a structural deficit. In other words, we were in the black, but the money that we needed to fill the hole was through really exceptional fundraising on the unrestricted side, but also from estates. And so as someone would pass on, they'd leave us money, we'd fill a hole. That's no way to sustain a mission in the rural area. Plus, we figured that although we were producing professionals to work in the rural area, nurses, teachers, et cetera, we simply didn't have the capacity to do all that our area of the world, which is 13 to 18 counties in southern Middle Tennessee. We're the only 4-year institution without any public institution from Chattanooga to Memphis. And so things were very ripe when this opportunity came open. The pandemic had just struck, and we put together a task force to deal with the pandemic and the possible financial implications of the pandemic. And during that discussion with our trustees and administration, it became clear that we not only needed to be positing this strange idea of merger, we needed to be very open to it. And so this is the kind of environment that the opportunity came into. And in May of 2020, the president of the UT system was in our county. He was going around to visit with each one of the extensions from UT Knoxville, the agricultural extensions, the community extensions. And we sat down to have a cup of coffee. And it was during that cup of coffee that I began to describe to him the mission of who we were and how critical our role and mission is in southern Middle Tennessee, and how sustainability was really a struggle and that we needed to partner and collaborate. And the idea of merging came from a cup of coffee. And it was an idea, one of the, you hear all the time, it's an idea whose time has come. There's nothing more powerful. Well, that's exactly what happened. And that began, it was sort of like I went on a date, and by the afternoon we were engaged to be married. So it was quite a serendipitous moment.
That's a short courting process. But yeah. I want to note a 28 member board of trustees.
Oh my God.
Right. That's what I say. I mean, that is a unwieldy number of folks to try to bring on board with something like this. And, Mark, it's funny because my institution that I work at, Claremont Lincoln University, it's a graduate institution in Southern Cal. We've had these conversations many times at the board level where we talk independence, or are we the merge E or the merge -er? What does that mean? Can we maintain independence and be a mergee? If you merge into someone else, do you lose your identity? You have to take on a new identity. There's lots of nuances. And for a 28-member board of trustees to come into that, and Scott, I'm going to come to you after Mark has a chance to answer this question. How do you get 28 people on board with something like this?
Well, that's a great question and a wonderful insight. You're absolutely right. The identity of an institution oftentimes takes precedence over everything else. And I think with our board of trustees, of course, we didn't tell them all at once.
Right.
It was a silent phase of this process that both the UT president and I entered into in order to first go to our board chairs and begin to go out from there. And we were met with questions, but most of the time with shock and then some enthusiastic desire to explore it. But you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, many colleges wait until they're weak. They're in a position that they're really desperate for survival. And when that happens, it's really not, you're not in a position to court just anyone. And so I think what was really important in this merger is that we had something valuable to offer UT, and they had something valuable to offer us. And so I think that's important to start with that if you're doing merger or acquisition as a last ditch effort, if you've lost your accreditation or you haven't been able to make payroll, the outcome is not going to be that great.
That's going to be a teach out. You're going to get taught. You're going to have to do teach out because nobody's going to want the expense that comes with that, right? You've got to plan 2 years out or so because it takes 2 years. If you go through you go through a change of ownership or anything like that, it takes a couple of years to get through your creditors too, unless you have, you can get provisional and there's lots of ways to do it, but it's got to be planned. You've got to have the foresight to really work through it. I give you a lot of credit for that.
Well, you're absolutely right. You have to get on a timeline. And it was interesting with the trustees, both from the UT side, they only have 11. They recently reorganized. And the trustees on our side, who are business people for the most part, and they understand acquisitions and mergers from a business standpoint. But they've had to learn about what that means from an educational standpoint. And so the timeline for doing this had to be, we had to consider a number of different institutions that we had to either comply with, with us, it's the SAC COC, or in addition to that, we had to get funding for this to become a state institution. So there was a lot to think about. The president of the UT system is an unusual president in that he didn't come up through the academic ranks. He went to UT, but he's a very successful entrepreneur, doesn't take a salary. And I think because of his relative naivete coming in, he didn't ask, why can't we do this? He saw an imperative like I did and said, we must do this. And so I thought that was very helpful.
Scott, I'm going to kick over to you.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate, Mark, your description of the strategic positioning of each institution going into this conversation. Just as a little bit of background, before taking this position, I was at a large public institution and we had a lot of state legislative pressure to actually merge with a medical school that was independent and private. And just as you were describing, we preempted that by forming a joint school, and when I was the vice provost, I led on our side that creation of this joint school. So instead of moving forward with a merger, it became an alliance, and we had to work through finding funding models and staffing models and teaching models, programmatic models that would allow the school to exist between two separate entities. Well, in that experience, and I assume similar with yours, there had to be a lot of depth conversation with the faculty at both institutions. So I'm just curious if you could share with Joe and I how you worked with the faculty at both the previous institution, Martin Methodist, and the larger UT system faculty for them to realize the mutual benefit and get over any perhaps concerns they may have had going into it.
That's a great question. The communication is just, it's not we had lawyers and we had a lot of technical things we had to do. We had challenges. We had to be creative, but it wouldn't have happened had we not gone through a communication process. Early on, we had a consultant, public relations consultant, help us with a communication plan so that when we came out with this publicly, we had been through a process of creating the kinds of communications that I believe were helpful in establishing, trust, I suppose. Trust is just critical. And I think that I was with the institution for 4 years before we made the move. And I believe that by establishing trust with the faculty over that period of time, they were willing to trust that what I was telling them, what I could tell them and what I couldn't tell them, I was doing whatever I was doing, it was for the best future for the institution. The thing that our trustees worried about and our faculty worried about and our staff, it wasn't, I don't think it was about some of the things I would have expected. They were sincerely worried as to whether or not we would be able to continue what they believed to be our critical mission in the area that we serve. So we serve first generation, more than 50% Pell eligible, rural students. We like to say that we bring students out of rural areas, train them in rural areas, and then return them to rural areas. And in the way of nursing and accountants and teachers, et cetera. We were very concerned. Some felt that if we become a part of the UT system, would we continue to serve our area in ways that we've done it for 150 years, and the way that it needs to be served? They look to, we have a system that has 4 undergraduate campuses. And when people think of the University of Tennessee, they think of the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And what's neat about the University of Tennessee system is that everybody gets a University of Tennessee degree wherever you go, whatever campus you're on. And we're allowed to be autonomous, and we're all have a different mission. Part of it is geographical, part of it is what we've become best at. So we were able to convince of the trustees. We brought the administration of the system down. We were able to convince the trustees and the faculty and staff that the mission that they so loved would now be preserved, but also expanded and enhanced through this relationship. Now, on the UT side, I believe that there was some concern about reputation. For us, it was a reputation gain. we were over the moon about gaining the reputation of the University of Tennessee system. For them, again, we're not an elite institution. We're not a flagship. So I think there was some concern that establishing an institution that serves the kind of demographic that we serve could be problematic to reputation. However, the president of the system was very strong in his proclamation that we're a land grant institution. And I think you may know this, I'm sure you do, that many of our land grants, UNC Chapel Hill, I mean, the list goes on and on, they were established to educate what they used to call the common man, right? And so for many land grants, they've gotten away from their core mission for the state. And so there was a very strong emphasis on fulfilling the role of the land grant institution. And there was no public four-year institution within 200 miles. And so I think that is why it became an imperative. The other thing that I think that they were concerned about is that, we're the new baby in the system, and baby's got to eat, and he's got to have a lot of attention. And I think that, obviously it's natural for others to think, well, we can't afford to have one more mouth, at the table. But I think that was when we were able to show that we're not coming at a deficit, but in fact that we were coming with, well-maintained buildings and a balanced budget, and also state money that we don't believe would have been awarded in any other way. They began to understand that this was good for everybody.
If you're experiencing any level of marketing challenge right now, you've got to ask the hard questions, and you need answers. Are you using the right mix of channels to get in front of your future students? Is your messaging personalized and delivered in a medium your audience and future students will respond to? And are you spending more time building reporting than listening in on what your students really want? All of these questions will get answered when you sign up for your free consultation with MDT Marketing. Head to mdtmarketing.com/edup, submit your information, and talk to MDT. Don't go it alone. Find the right partner. The guys at MDT, the team at MDT is absolutely amazing. Whether your challenge is the cost of inquiries, your branding, the bad and incomplete information that come with your inquiries, whatever it is, an audit of your challenges will help your institution, and it's free. mdtmarketing.com/edup. Wow, it's pretty incredible. Scott, go ahead.
Oh, that's an amazing answer. Really appreciate all of the multiple perspectives that you shared, Mark, in trying to navigate through this. Again, my experience was more of creating a joint school between two separate entities. Yours is a merger, but there are so many similarities in trying to actually actuate that pathway. So great job. I'm so pleased for you. Joe, if you don't mind, I actually had a follow-up question.
I don't mind, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
As I say, let's get started. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, Mark, my previous institution was an urban serving institution. Yours is a rural serving institution. Again, that may make them seem very different, but that institution's commitment was right there to the city, was embedded in the city, founded by the city, very similar to the history of the institution you are leading. And I'm just curious, how do you, could you elaborate further on how you really fulfill that mission very clearly in serving that region? I noticed on your website that service learning is a core part of your mission. You have programs that are professional in nature to put people into nursing and teaching positions. But I'm just curious how now with this UT system as your support system as well, how do you really carry out that mission very clearly, that regional service mission?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that we were established in order to provide accessibility for people in rural areas, and particularly women. And so our mission of doing that was strong. We also were established to benefit the rural area. That, for instance, in our area, it's considered to be a health professional desert. In other words, it's just very difficult to get health professionals. And so what we found is that if a student does not have an opportunity to be educated in their area, then for a rural student, if they were to come to UT Knoxville, which some do, and some are successful, but they're not as successful as the general population of students. Why? Because they came out of a rural setting, and now they're into a very large setting that can be very alienating. So what we were finding, though, that when they were successful going to a larger city to attend a big university, they did not come back. It was rare to have them come back. And so you have a brain drain, and you lose the professional possibilities and the community, the citizenship that would have been provided by that individual. So if you look across our region and you look into the schools, or if you look on the city councils or county commissions, you're going to find a lot of people who have are Martin alums, and this is only going to enhance that even greater. And so we feel like it's our role in the region to understand what the region needs, workforce demands, professional occupations, and to really focus on that. And a lot of our students, we're in an area where the college going rate is lagging significantly from the rest of the state. And part of that is just pure access, affordable access. So even as a private small institution, for instance, our sticker price was $25,000 for tuition. Of course, we discounted it. That was a part of why we were becoming less sustainable. We had to discount it in order that students could afford it. But with the advent of UT Southern, our tuition rate dropped from 25,000 sticker price to 10,000. And so as you
a part of the merger, you're saying?
Yes. And
wow, so that's significant.
That's very significant. And it was made possible by the state of Tennessee. We had to go through the legislature and get the funding, which was for us $5 million recurring dollars to make up that difference. And so these students in our Southern Middle Tennessee deserve the same kind of support as others receive from the state. And so it was not a hard sell to the legislature. The governor had made it his campaign promise that he would look beyond Memphis and Chattanooga, Knoxville and Nashville to parts of the state that had been long underserved. And so this fit right into his, political aspirations. And so the other thing about UTK is that UT Knoxville is they have these extensions throughout Southern Middle Tennessee and in each one of the counties. And so now we can more seamlessly collaborate with them to deliver the kind of capacity that our region needs.
Yeah, that was a great question, Scott. You got to stop asking such good questions compared to me, or this will be your final EdUp experience.
The best thing to do, Joe, is just blow that ship horn when I start talking.
Please don't tempt me. So what's coming here, guys. If you're a listener of the EdUp Experience podcast, this is the part I like right in the middle of the episode, depending on who the guest is, and it is to hit our guest with a little bit of an on your toes question. And sure. I'm going to ask you two. You get to pick the one that you want, and Scott's got to answer the other one. You ready?
Got it.
Okay, I got to get my music ready. Here we go. It kind of makes you feel like you're going to win money if you answer this right, but there's no money involved, unfortunately. But I do like to hit it because it like makes me have a change in my voice. All right, Mark, here we go. Let's hear, Mark, if you're walking into a room now at the brand new rebranded University of Tennessee Southern, and there's a song playing every time you walk into the room, it's your entrance music. What song would that be? Or you can answer number 2, what dream vacation do you need to take now as this merger has been completed?
Well, I think about the happy song, you know. I think that, or I can see clearly now that the rain is gone. I mean, we really are looking at a new horizon. It was really interesting that there are a lot of things that obstruct your vision or your horizon. But through this process, although the process itself got pretty cloudy and there was a lot of suspense and liminality, at the end of the day, the clouds clear and our horizon has suddenly advanced quite a bit. And so that's an exciting place to be.
Is the name of that song I Can See Clearly?
I can see clearly now.
Yeah. which means Scott Marshall, you get the dream vacation. If you say a semester at sea, I'm going to hit the incorrect button. You got to give me something different. Dream vacation.
Dang, I was all prepared for my favorite song or the song that I'd like to walk into, but favorite dream vacation would definitely be on foot, hiking the Andes, maybe up to the Inca Trail, something like that. Kilimanjaro. 2 different continents, but that's what I love to do. So,
wow.
How about those options?
A nice active vacation. Well done.
Yeah, I'm not much for laying around with mint julep or something. I got to be on the move.
Yeah, I'm more. I think I'm gonna go with a mint julep in this case. But
most would.
So we all have our dreams of sitting down as I'm chasing 2 little ones all over the place. And let me just transport myself to a mint julep in the Maldives or something.
There you go.
That's where I'm at. Mark, tell me this. So Tennessee Southern, there's different ways to merge. One of the, you can bolt on, right? You can be an untouched entity that is doing exactly what it was doing before, just in a rebrand situation where you have a change of ownership. You can literally merge into a larger institution, and you can resource share, which means that you, in some cases, as you're the mergee, you look at cutting expenses, your administrative areas like human resources and finance and legal, those can be handled by the larger institution, which creates some difficulties when you merge because you have to make tough decisions in staffing and such. How did this work for you all were you a bolt on, or are you a bolt on and just kind of go forward, or did you have to really slim and really merge services? And included in that is, what about students? Were there bridge courses? Were all credits accepted into the UT system? Because of course that is a big deal when you merge in higher ed, is what happens to the credits for the students and the classes and all that.
Yeah,
there's a lot of questions in there, Mark. I'm
not
doing a good job here.
Well, that's all at stake when you talk about this. And I will say I'm working on a project now that will become a book with 8 institutions that have either tried to merge and failed or have merged. But I will tell you that if you've seen one merger, you've seen one merger, because they're all different. They all come to it differently, and the results are different. What you're describing is sort of a continuum of just being absorbed into another institution, or, as you put it, bolt on. We would be the bolt on. The University of Tennessee system are the ones that acquired us. They don't have accreditation. It's an
entity.
Yeah, it's an entity. And so we came in with our own accreditation. They want us to continue our same mission, but we're going to be able to do it, I think, a lot more affordably and obviously with the capacity, we talk a lot about in UT, B1 UT. It's an aspirational statement that is sort of an acronym for a number of values. And so we're trying to live that out. So what does it mean to B1 UT? It means that, we make up for each other's weaknesses and we share each other's strengths. I happen to be sitting at the UT Knoxville campus today because we just finished our board meeting. And I sure would like to have some of these assets down there in rural Tennessee. Yeah. It doesn't work that easily. Yeah. But I have had a tremendous amount of support from professionals throughout the system. The Health Science Center is going to be on our campus next week to help us with strategy and growing our nursing program. And so, yes, it's a friend with benefits kind of situation. Yeah.
We talked about courting and dating and friends with benefits.
That's right. Well,
great analogies. I love it.
Yeah, we were married, and I tell our alumni who we had some resistance, as you might suspect. Yeah. But we're married. We married up, and I think the greatest concern was that although we were capable of going forward the same as we had been with the same kind of struggle. When we went public with this and stated our intentions, and the trustees, knew that if Tennessee left us at the altar in this whole marriage metaphor, that would be extremely damaging to us. They would go on and be just the strong flagship they've always been. So it required a lot of vulnerability on our part, a lot of trust. And, we had to work through, like I said, a number of things, not the least of which was that we were a church-related institution, United Methodist. We had to ask for a waiver to be released from a trust clause that could suggest ownership. So there were a lot of these steps along the way. But I think what was greater than any of these challenges was this sense of mission, and the sense that we could somehow do this mission exponentially better with a partner like the University of Tennessee. And so while it was bitter, it was also sweet. And I think that although the church in some ways was hesitant, they understood that this mission that they had started 150 or more years ago had reached a place where it had an opportunity to grow beyond their wildest dreams. And so I have to take my hat off to the church and those who make up the church who are willing to, let it go, and in order that it might live a greater existence.
Scott, you want to jump back in with anything before I hit Mark on the way out with our final two questions?
Well, I'm going to try to keep it brief here. I think my question will be brief, but it may require a longer answer by Mark, but maybe not. I'm really curious, Mark, what your sort of short, medium, long-term runway is on being able to fully integrate some of the key systems across the UT with UT Southern. A close colleague of mine has worked within the Colorado State University system just to bring banner integration into some of the regional campuses away from the CSU Fort Collins campus. And that's taken 2 years. I'm just curious, has that been something that has already been accomplished? Is something that is not necessarily a goal, or something that really will take a long time? And of course, it's not just banner, it's assorted accounting systems, HR systems, all of that. Is that going to be something you're seeking to fulfill as part of this merger?
Yes, and it is a long and can be tedious process. We did presumptively when we got to the point where the state had given us funding and we still had a couple of approvals to go, we felt good enough about it where we began to make the turn in terms of human resources. And a whole lot of work had to be done. All of our people had to be, have background checks. We had to, it's just a long kind of process, but that was all done so that when our employees started July 1 in a new system, they were part of their HR. And so that was done. But there's a whole lot of business processes, anything from how you travel. We're not as nimble as we were before. There are some give and takes, but I think that the gives are far greater than the takes. We're also, along those lines, we're subject to the legislature. And what that means, it's a different kind of environment. So for instance, we're trying to make decisions on COVID-related mitigation. And as you know, in many of the states, particularly in the South, there's this resistance to mandates. And in a private world, you would just make your decision without really a lot of consideration of, the legislature or the political winds, et cetera. What we found out now is that many of the decisions we make have some kind of political impact that we have to take into consideration in a much greater way.
That definitely takes some getting used to, I bet, right?
Yes, it does. But it'll take us at least a year, I think, to get the business processes down. And at the same time, you'll appreciate this, Scott, the UT system is now has an RFP out for a new ERP system.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, we'll be going through that in the next. I think they'll decide, and then that'll be a 2-year process. We'll be getting a new enterprise system throughout.
Mark, I estimate you'll have that done somewhere in the next decade. So I wish you best of luck.
Yes.
That's funny. And a lot of this, it's change. It's getting used to change. And I want to give you our final 2 questions, Mark, but I do want to ask you but before I get to the final 2, if there's one piece of advice, something that you know now that you didn't know then, going through a merger process, that you would say to other presidents out there, other administrators that either are entering into this process, in the middle of the process, thinking about the process, that it might be something. What does everybody kind of need to know? One little tip.
The time to do it is not when you have to.
That's so amazing, and I think you're right, and that'll be our mic drop moment of the episode here. There you go. That's an absolute bomb, and it's truth. It has to be before you ever think about it. It's when you start planning for it. It's so true, so right on. Well, Mark, I could do this all day with you. In fact, in my background, not a lot of people know this. I worked in for-profit education in a previous life before I came to a nonprofit graduate university, and the university was regionally accredited, publicly traded, but we were in the midst of doing teach outs, and so I have been through 8 M&A teach out asset acquisitions for that at the time were failing for-profit universities, but to the tune of about 5,000 students that we taught out from other closing institutions. And then we were able to take on new programs as a part of that closure. We acquired some programs and so on, but it is very, very sensitive work because of the students, the faculty, the staff. There are so many things you have to balance. The finances are, it's just every decision you make has some kind of an impact. And so I really appreciate your insight, because there are not a lot of folks that go through this. If you look at the entirety of higher ed, it's a small percentage of people that have gone through an M&A process, period. So your insight is very valuable.
It's tiny. And our students, but you asked earlier, Scott, about their credits. They were able to transfer their credits to the UT system. Our tenured faculty were able to be accepted. We had to change some bylaws of the board of the system in order to do some of these things, but this is a novel thing. The university, we're the oldest, newest university in the nation, I think. Tennessee hasn't added a university since it added the University of Chattanooga, which was another Methodist institution in 1959-60. So we're learning as we go. And but it's something that I think there's a lot of presidents that are they're fearful for their jobs to suggest such a maneuver, because I guess sometimes, I guess a lot of them feel like this is sort of a thinking that they'll fail if they, give over their identity. But this has been quite a success.
It's amazing. So what did we miss about, I would say, what did Scott miss about, you hear my kids screaming in the background. That's just part of the gig here, guys. But what did Scott miss asking you today? Certainly I didn't miss anything. He did. What didn't he ask you about the University of Tennessee Southern? Anything you want to say, any plug that you want to put in there? And then what is the future of higher education going to look like, Mark?
Well, that's a very good question. I think you covered it all. It was a process that required a trust and communication. We didn't have the answer sometimes for our faculty and staff. We all had to live in this space of ambiguity and liminality, and it was not always comfortable. But we did it together, and the outcome was wonderful. Yes, we've been talking a lot about the future of higher education, and as a matter of fact, just coming out of a board meeting, you better be thinking about it. That's all I can say, because the trends suggest that we have to find new ways to educate people, to offer our product to an ever-changing demographic of people. We know that the number of high school students is going to drop almost precipitously in certain areas. The number of people like me at my age are going to grow. And so we have to find ways to deliver what the world needs in different ways. We're talking a lot about offering certifications, non-credit bearing courses that can be then transferred into credit. But, we're living in a world where things are changing rapidly and education changes incrementally. We're all stuck on this per credit hour kind of system. It's not competency based. We have learned a lot. It's been accelerated through COVID because we've all had to gear up to do this distant education approach, or remote education approach, which incidentally caused us to learn that most students, at least traditionally, would rather be in person. And so I don't see that going away. I see it becoming more hybrid, but I definitely think that we're going to have to offer entry points and opportunities for more than just the traditional, 18 or 19-year-old student coming to college. Yeah, it's a brave new world out there, and we're just hoping we can be nimble enough and agile enough to change in time to meet its needs, but also to survive our mission.
Love it. Scott, what do you think about all that?
I think you nailed it. Students want to be in person, and they want the convenience of online hybrid. They want it all, and they look much different than they did when any of us were in school. And if we don't respond as higher ed leaders, there's just going to be dramatic impacts, not just on access to education, but then at the societal level when folks don't have that access. So I appreciate everything Mark and his leadership team are trying to do to ensure that they live in and meet those needs.
Well, what a pleasure it was today to talk to both of you. First, of course, Scott Marshall, President and Chief Executive Officer at Semester at Sea. Special message for you here, Scott.
I'd like to thank you, my friend.
I'd like to thank you, Scott Marshall. And what I'll say to you, Mark, I'll say that I think that out of all the episodes that we've done, this is probably one of the most important episodes that we could record and put out there that is an explanation of what the future of higher education could look like. because the M&A space, the change of the independence conversation, the students and the faculty moving one institution to another, that is happening, and it's going to happen in an ever increasing rate. So I really, really appreciate your insights. Of course, Dr. Michael Branche, he is president and chancellor at the University of Tennessee Southern Market. It was an absolute pleasure, and I mean it.
I'm not kidding, bro. I'm not kidding.
I'm really not kidding.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd. Are you using the right mix of channels to get in front of your audience? Is your messaging personalized and delivered in a medium your audience responds to? Are you spending more time building reports than listening in on what your audience wants? These are not easy questions to answer. That's why our great friends at MDT Marketing are offering a free audit of your marketing efforts. Head to www.mdtmarketing.com/edup and submit your information for your free consultation today. Look, guys, you got nothing to lose. It's free. I don't know why you wouldn't want a free audit to tell you what you're doing, whether it's effective, and how you can make some incremental changes that can make a big difference moving forward. That's www.mdtmarketing.com/edup.